Professor Faye Faye is Professor Emerita of English and Drama at East China Normal University in Shanghai and has taught theater history, literature, and criticism in the United States and China since receiving her doctorate in 1991 from CUNY Graduate Center in New York. She has published in leading journals such as DDR, the Journal of Performance Studies, Asian Theatre Journal, Modern Drama, the New Theatre Quarterly, and Theatre Arts, among others. Her book, Chinese Series of Theatre and Performance from Confucius to the Present, was awarded the prize NEH and is widely used and cited by scholars around the world. Grants and fellowships include those from the British Academy, Japan Foundation, and PSSF in China, New York University, and Asian Cultural Council in the US. And these grants have taken her to over 24 countries on 5 continents. She is also a professionally produced playwright, and is also in that capacity that we have invited her to give a paper here today. All her plays are intercultural in form and content, and her most recent works are internationally acclaimed reinventions of Ibsen, Strindberg, and Shakespeare in the convention of Chinese traditional theater. So a big welcome to Professor Chunfang Faye, and please come up to the podium.
Good afternoon. Okay, so thank you for your kind introduction. So as Lucia was saying, I normally wear 2 hats, scholar and artist. So in my capacity as a university professor of theater, I teach dramatic literature, theater history, and critical theories, and talking a lot about other people's work. And but as a playwright myself, I actually prefer for others to talk about my work, and let my work speak for themselves. So I was quite surprised, not surprised, I was pleasantly relieved and pleased when I was, my presentation in the program is categorized an artist talk. So I'm going to throw in my scholar hat and just talk as an artist. So and also because of the jet lag, I'm ready in my sleeping mode. I'm glad I have my printout of my talking points. At least I have a script, so and I can go from here. Okay, so being an artist as a playwright, and I began writing plays while I was still in college 45 years ago. And most of my plays, I said, almost all my plays are intercultural in form and content, and mostly in Huazhu, spoken drama, which is a modern theater form as differentiated from the traditional Xiqu, traditional operas like a Beijing opera, Yue Opera, and so on and so forth. And which in performance involves not only spoken words, but also singing, dancing, pantomiming, acrobatics, and other embodied conventions and spectacles. So somehow, beginning around 2006, my writing partner, Huizhu Sun, and I have co-authored a number of intercultural works embodying Western dramatic classics as Chinese traditional operas, and namely Yue Opera Hedda Gabler, but in Chinese is Hedda or Aspirations Sky High, and Lady from the Sea. They were all after or inspired by Henrik Ibsen. And also we wrote Beijing opera Miss Julie after August Strindberg. and more recently, a play called Zhongyan, or Harsh but True, after Shakespeare's King Lear. After all these productions have won critical recognitions and are performed not only in China, but also toured the theater festivals around the world, including Norway, Sweden, where the two Norwegian playwrights were originally from. And doing Shakespeare in China in spoken drama or in the traditional 戏曲 is relatively more common. But reinventing Ibsen or Strindberg, the grand masters of modern drama on the traditional theater stage, is something quite new in China. And in our own experience, it has proven to be challenging, but gratifying and rewarding and meaningful. So today, I'm focusing on Yue Opera Hedda, or Aspiration Sky High, the first of our endeavors. First of all, why Ibsen? And all those questions, why Ibsen, what we did, and how. So this is an artist talking. So this is, and so the year, why 2006, why Hedda Gabler, why Yue or Yue Opera. The year 2006 was the centennial of Ibsen's passing. In Norway, 2006 was to be the Ibsen year, and marking the 100th anniversary of his death. Invitations were sent out around the world for theater productions based on or inspired by Ibsen. I still remember that phone call from Norway late in the summer of 2005. Somebody on the phone, ring, ring, ring. This is Nora Ibsen calling from Norway. I thought it was a joke. So I was teaching modern drama. Ibsen was on my list, Miss Adol's house, and so on and so forth. So yeah, and so she said, I am the great Nora Ibsen? Are you kidding? And he said, yes, actually I'm the great granddaughter of Henrik Ibsen, as well as the great granddaughter of Ben Jonson, the Nobel Prize winner from Norway. It's when? 1903. So she's serious. And she said on the phone, this is an international long distance call. She said, we hear you've written a new play inspired by Ibsen's Hedda Gabler. We would like to come to China to see it in October. But at that point, we had the script, a theater company of choice, 2 co-directors, a production team, a cast of all female performers, and an orchestra. Over the summer and the early fall, we rehearsed. By October, we were ready for the delegation headed by Nora Ibsen, and which was visiting China to select productions for the Ibsen year. So this is, but why Ibsen? Why Hedda Gabler? Why Hedda Gabler was our choice. It was a deliberate choice. In China, Ibsen, along with Shakespeare, are the 2 best-known foreign or European playwrights. And Ibsen was introduced into China by Lu Xun, Hu Shi, and those in the New Culture Movement, 新文化运动, in 1907. The same year, the Chinese spoken drama, 话剧, came into being, because it seemed kind of random, arbitrary why 1907, but somehow historians decided 1907, that's Chinese modern drama was born. But anyways, however, even though Ibsen was very well known in China, And his plays, staged in China, had hardly ever gone beyond A Doll's House, Enemy of the People, and more recently, Peer Gynt. We chose Hedda Gabler because it's one of our most favorite of Ibsen's plays. And it had never been staged in China. At least in my circle of theater friends, we always say, there's a saying, if you're a really, really good actor, you perform Hamlet. If you're a really, really great actress, you do Hedda Gabler. So we wanted to do Hedda Gabler because she's complex, she is interesting. But why Huizhu? Why Yuezhu? So I'm falling asleep. And I'm glad I have a script. So, and why Yue Opera? Instead of adapting it for a Huizhu spoken drama, which is our usual medium, we wanted to do it in Xizhi, in the traditional form. Initially, we attempted Huzhu, a Shanghai-based traditional theater, to set it in the 1930s Shanghai, costumed in xizhuang and qipao. But eventually we decided to work with Hangzhou Yue Opera Company with a classically costumed all-female ensemble as the vehicle of our embodiment. Coincidentally, when the commemoration of the 100th anniversary of Ibsen's death was happening in 2006, Yuezhu was only 100 years old, 100 years young. It's still quite open. Okay, I'm missing my lines. Sorry, I'll go back a little bit. Coincidentally, when the commemoration of 100th anniversary of Ibsen's death was happening in 2006, Yuezhu was celebrating the 100th anniversary of its birth. And so, although a traditional form, Yuezhu was only 100 years young, it's still quite open to growing and changing. So with our familiarity with Yuezhu, which we grew up watching with our grandparents, and we believe this more lyrical and nuanced form would provide us the opportunity to maintain the core of psychological realism of Ibsen's original play, while allowing us to highlight its mood, atmosphere, contemplation, poetic symbolisms, and so on. But how many of you in the audience are familiar with Hedda Gabler? Can I have a show of hands? Well, somehow fewer than I had expected. So in that case, so why do I play a video recording of our production first? So then I'll tell you what we did differently from the original and why. Okay, I find it. And the reason I chose this particular version, this had I'm going to actually to show you 3 scenes, one from the beginning, one in the middle, and one in the end. This recording was actually made of our first production, was on a VCD, and it's pretty old style. The reason I chose it because it has an English subtitle. And the other versions had better quality videography or whatever, so this one has an English subtitle. Musicians on stage is pretty standard for the traditional theater.
什么有人不见呢？
堂子买卖全当小喽子过，
这怕是不分是人吧？这鸳鸯间，这有妖没有缘，此有分离。莫比你送故人，莫比你送友人，我与你一人眼里凭今生，你为我年年不忘求前门啊！有一是你许应承，许应承。
说来听听。
黑大，你是女儿身，怎能同当亲？穷贱人丁丁，你恰是这做官也为真，偏靠不离身。就算是专是无连公主，也不许真过得担到天里。
谁说你儿身不能同到心？我不能是罗儿盼你同君分，一段直到浓情泪淌
可你整天舞蹈弄剑，让人笑话。
三人一天要上朝觐见，当庭论法，到此今你们正不正当，都不成全，这才真是笑话。
这不是有法大人担保举荐吗？
许多与人举荐，也要你以真才实用啊！
可你整天舞蹈弄剑，弄得我心惊胆衰，我哪有心情写书哦？
只怕你才穷之情，还不是我替你所说的这梅花前程。
你是女儿家，
哪有时候？想当年，县府门徒预报，我以羊驼所设置，天本地利了个自在。倒是你们这些男儿，分不见名团，不所报国，又有哪部真正比得上我这女儿家？
天子宠你，家园远远，可在左所列这催眉草啊，总不是女人的本分。
女人的本分，
相夫教子，万幸恩臣。
你要我说私人家
不，也可以扬花一情，谈情也
岂不思也？
丁夫人，你的愿望表妹西洋来了。
No, played long enough. That's the beginning. It's some kind of an exposition. And so here you have a young woman, well educated, trapped in a loveless marriage, or not loveless, but not happy marriage. And so this is the beginning part. And what happened? So early on, there's a dream sequence. Is it clear to you? So there's three of them.
Yeah.
They were students together, and the other one got away, and she married the pauper husband, somehow feeling unhappy. It's similar to what Hedda Gabler was like at the beginning. She came back after 6 months of a honeymoon trip, and pregnant. But here we did not allow her to be pregnant, but unhappy, feeling trapped. So happening. So we use that, but another thing is pretty obvious. It's not what the early presenter was talking about, Sino-futurism, whatever. This is not updating Ibsen. It's definitely backdating, pushing the back to a time of unspecified past in China, when Confucianism was not the leading orthodox yet. So a woman, a young girl, could still be educated to learn to read and write. So this was the beginning. I'll move on a little more. So this is sort of quiet and dreamy, reverie opening, quite typical in Yue opera. Yue opera has this tradition of love stories, young ladies and handsome young scholars, something you may be familiar with, like Zhu Yingtai, Liang Xiaobo Zhu Yingtai, the butterfly lovers, and so on. So it's typical for that. And also you see a pair of swords. And for those of you who know Ibsen's Hedda Gabler, they were a pair of pistols. And because Hedda Gabler is the daughter of General Gabler, and so who passed and left Hedda with a pair of pistols, which she wheeled around all the time, doing that. But here, so it's a pair of swords. It was, from what you have seen, is a token of love. When each person has one, and they somehow match. So here you have the opening, very sort of we condensed it, and you have the relationship, 3 people already in here, and you have Hedda unhappy, trapped, and unsatisfied. And so I'm going to play a middle section. During the course of the play, Ibsen's play and our play as well, her former boyfriend, Lovborg, in our version, Chinese name, Le Wenbo, Lovborg and Le Wenbo, and lost his manuscript, which he was going to use in competition with Hedda's husband for a position in court. In Ibsen's case, was for a university job. So he lost the manuscript during a drunken debauchery, and Hedda's husband in the play, in Ibsen's and ours as well, find the manuscript underground and brought it home, and Hedda read it. Hedda was going to read it, and Lovborg came looking, and they had a short exchange of words, and he left looking for his manuscript. This is Hedda going to do it.
和他与心爱的角色，不是我的角色。
Can you all hear?
It's too low, perhaps we
Okay,
could
make it louder.
lift the
静静，
volume a bit.
不是我的你。
Yeah, it can be louder.
名声，不是我的名
Yes,
声，
better.
不是我的，不是我的，不是我的命。我好恨，我好恨呐！ 青梅竹马，去时光，千圈且从情意呀。 自与恩皮不曾讲，那为诚心将他杀。 心碎魂翻似海棠，金银求情必能发，到此今生逆风光。 何必当初弃情郎？ 我明了此处为你天子宝，我做梦见你飞到九天堂，我怎必能将你分为我无缘，和你永登天子堂。 这树高是我与西洋的兴趣，我是我们的孩子，而你的竞争何必计较啊？
It seemed to be slower than I had heard. The speed of this is.
Because we need to finish.
Okay. Okay.
第五，
All right. So she burned the manuscript. And if you remember in what Ibsen's play was, manuscript was destroyed in the fireplace, like 2 seconds. It's done. So this one lasted at least 5 minutes. And she became, her long sleeve dance she becomes a flame herself, burning the book and expressing her regrets and resentment and all of that emotions. And now the end, moving towards the end, and Birkbeck she gave him back the sword and to die a beautiful death. He did not. He got killed by accident and died. And she is 3 men who were important in her life. Birkbeck died. Her husband is trying to rewrite the book by working with Birkbeck's new girlfriend, who was his assistant, and the judge in Ibsen's play becomes the old gentleman who is trying to help an old family friend, but also trying to take advantage of Hedda. So she's again trapped. Like at the beginning, she was trapped in an unhappy, unsatisfying marriage. Here, she is trapped by social conventions. Her reputation is going to be ruined. So here, and we all know, okay, go quickly. Talking about suicide.
我一生为民团，为民团了我们，我一生为民团，为民了芬芳了芬芳了芬芳了芬。
That's her end. Right. So the lights back on. Okay, this is how our Hedda, Aspiration Sky High, ended. And for those of you who knew Hedda Gabler, she died off stage with one of the pistols. And so here, the sword is on the stage. It's a dance of death and killing herself, like a confessional, and died like Sarah Bernhardt in Racine's Phaedra, like a dying long time to die. So these when we were adapting, we were trying to embody Hedda, Ibsen's Hedda, written in 1898 in Chinese traditional opera. And so we were making choices. So even before we sat down to write the plays, I already thought of the book burning thing. Like it was too quick. Like it need to be, especially in Yue opera, you have in 红楼梦, you have 黛玉葬花 and 焚书, and it's a very long time to express your psychological angst or anxiety and neurosis and all of that. So that's when it was happening. Of course, Ibsen was writing in a more realistic mode and a psychological realism, but we are really using a medium which is non-realistic to begin with, singing, dancing, long sleeves, and all of that. We wanted to use that form to put Hedda in it, to show her emotions, her neurosis, her anxieties, and her pain. So this is our purpose. So instead of the pistols, we used a pair of swords, which was more in keeping with our tradition. And her dying off stage, we choose it to be in public, right in front of everyone. And there's a long aria, sun, and then so it's confessional, that type of ending. And so obviously we were not updating Ibsen. We were definitely backdating him. And remember that the year when the play was invited to in 2006, was invited to go to Norway twice. First at the New Year gala performance was only a short segment to be presented. And it was invited back in September for 2 performances at the National Theatre in Oslo. And so it was taking the audience by storm. The Norwegians all know how Hedda died. And so to see this on stage was quite new. The same year we went to Oslo, there were 3 Hedda productions, one from Denmark, one from Germany, and one from Shanghai. And the Denmark one was pretty standard. And the German one was really updating it. And you have Hedda slamming a notebook on the floor, trying to destroy the manuscript. And we were thinking, isn't that in the cloud or something? And why is he just destroying that? But it was a very powerful, wonderful performance, production. And also Hedda died in this German production. That the stage was set very modern stage. The ceiling, they used mirrors on the ceiling. So even though Hedda killed herself in the back room off stage, when the shot was heard, you could see the blood on the on the ceiling. So at least you saw her, blood. Our Hedda was right in front of the stage, so that's different. So, but that was very Huizhu opera, and it's definitely a different type of a new bottle. It's a new, the wine is old, the story and the basic plot development is Ibsen's, but we closed it up, put it in the bottle of the Chinese traditional opera, and somehow with the old wine, the new bottle, the shape also changed, and the impact was different. And so following this particular performance in Oslo, and we were right away commissioned by Ibsen International to do another play of Ibsen, so which were followed with Lady from the Sea. They suggested Lady from the Sea, and so we did another version of a Yue opera with the same company, Lady from the Sea, and so in the same kind of just making it different, but somehow still. And when the performance were over, Hedda Gabler was over at the reception, and the Nora Ibsen came again. I definitely, she said, of course, out of politeness and also sincerity, and she could see the spirit of her great-great-grandfather's play seemed to live on here. She could see Hedda here, the swords on stage, suicide, and all of that. Still very much Ibsen, and we in that particular process we felt. I'm going to jump to the end of my paper. Just want to make sure so the choices were made. So we have reason to believe this type of artistic intercultural reinvention has a promising future. As I said, we did many more of similar type of re-embodying of Western classics, and doing this kind of reinventing and embodying and subsequent Western classics for Huizhu stage has been a gratifying process. And we believe and it really and Western dramatic classics find new lives and new expressions in traditional Chinese form, and the Chinese traditional theater in turn has a chance to experiment with new subject matters, new characters, and new dramatic structure, and attract new audiences at home and abroad. So to that I say bravo. So we have been, so I've written many plays and I've done spoken drama most of my life, but 2006 was a turning point. And so I have really enjoyed doing this.